Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Wayne Trench, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you here today to present to you my research program for the Turner Field Upgrade Project, which is currently being considered by the Atlanta Braves executive team. I'd like to pay a special note and thanks to Mr. Terry McGurk, who's commissioned the report that I'm about to discuss with you today. I really appreciate the opportunity to work with such a class outfit like the Braves. So in order to set some structure for the agenda today, I'd like to firstly just give you a bit of an introduction into the research program and the way in which the session will go today. I'll then take a look at the literature review and sort of review some of the recent material and academic data which has been put together around this particular topic. We'll then look at the proposed research design and methodology for the actual program in question. We'll take a look at the sample unit as well as the methodology behind the sampling. We'll then investigate the quantitative data capture methods that I've outlined, or proposing should I say, as well as the qualitative data capture as well. Following on from that, we'll have a bit of a talk about the data analysis as well as the reliability and validity considerations which need to be taken into account. And finally, we'll finish with some conclusions and recommendations. I think it's fair to say that for many years now, Turner Field has been regarded as state-of-the-art and cutting edge. But at the same token, times have changed. The executive team, as I understand it, is considering an investment into a stadium upgrade, and we really want to know or really get some direction as to how that is going to happen in order to improve the overall experience for our stakeholders and in turn the profitability of the team and the franchise. You know, before we go and invest this money, though, we really need to understand what is important to our stakeholders. There's a lot of money that's about to be put to work, and we want to make sure that it's directed in the most appropriate fashion. This research program is really aimed at understanding how we should best invest that money, and more specifically, a research question has been designed in order to capture the data in the most effective manner. And that research question is, are the key stakeholders of the Atlanta Braves driven to support the team and to attend games by the stadium features at Turner Field and entertainment provided? And if so, what are the key initiatives that we should focus on going forward? The literature review that has been conducted has addressed a plethora of research which has been taken on in recent times. Into both fan loyalty as well as the effect of stadiums on attendance and profitability of teams. I think it's fair to say that in today's technologically advanced world, fans are in fact moving towards watching sports within their home theatres and media rooms, and teams and stadiums alike need to recognise that fact and really innovate through the use of technology and entertainment to further add to the experience of the fans on game day, whilst also getting closer to the consumers. In recent times, some examples of this have included 4D seating, which actually vibrates in accordance with the events of the games that have been played, high-end multimedia systems giving fans real-time updates on multiple games at any given time whilst at the stadium, inbuilt aquariums, and even theme park rides and the like. Now, whilst all these initiatives are valid and certainly one would argue, add to the whole experience of the fans on game day, we can't forget that not all teams have fans and stakeholders that like the same things. And that's really important to remember when designing this research program. What we need to do is tap into what the Atlanta Braves stakeholders and fans really find is important and focus our efforts there. This will really add to a tailored experience for them. In terms of the design itself, look, it's very, very critical to leverage an appropriate research design in order to get the maximum results out of the research study. Several methodologies exist. These are qualitative methods, quantitative methods, as well as a mixed methods approach. For the purpose of this research project, I've proposed a mixed methodology which combines both quantitative and qualitative elements. From my perspective, the qualitative elements will really allow us to tap into the emotional connection and the perceptions of the Braves brand and stadium identity. We'll talk a little bit more about how this is going to happen, but I think that's really critical to sort of get an understanding as to how the fans really feel about the brand that is the Braves, and what makes them connect to that brand. The second part, though, will be more quantitative, and this will focus on the real tangible stadium features that the fans like and want to see more of going forward. And really, that's going to be one of the primary drivers for investment decisions. The mixed method strategies are really less well known than the quantitative and qualitative methodology. But as I said, this is the method that we've decided on proposing. The qualitative approach will leverage a closed-end survey, which will really allow for relatively straightforward statistical analysis. It will provide a numeric description of the trends, attitudes and opinions which will be statistically significant with respect to the overall population. The qualitative segment of the research will utilise a focus group setting. This will be moderated by a trained leader. As I said, focus groups have more depth, nuances and variety and allow for more understanding as to what the respondents are feeling. And that's what I want to try and tap into throughout those focus group sessions. It's more difficult to score this data on a scale, but it's ideal for more subjective subject matter. And that's why I think it's ideal for emotional connections to the brand and the stadium itself. The sample unit, sample methodology, well, we need to understand who are the key stakeholders of the Atlanta Braves first and foremost. And from my perspective, they're first and foremost the fans, but not only the fans. We've got team members to consider, the employees of the team, the stadium employees, as well as the sponsors. The quantitative element sample unit will be drawn from attendees on the game day at Turner Field, as well as the Braves membership base. The survey that we're going to conduct will be conducted over 3 consecutive home games, utilising a stratified sampling approach. Our surveys will be evenly distributed throughout all of the ticket classes to ensure that we get a good coverage of the overall population. The sample size will be calculated based on a 95% confidence interval and allowing for a 5% margin for error, which is really standard in this sort of research study, and it's generally accepted practice. This would leave us with approximately 500 people to survey in order to get statistically significant results. The focus groups, on the other hand, will be conducted using 3 homogeneous groups within each of the stakeholder groups that I mentioned before. Purposive sampling will be used rather than convenience sampling, again, to further bolster the validity of the results. Now, in terms of, whilst the fan base will make up the majority of the population, as I said, they are not the only stakeholders that we need to pay attention to within the Braves family. We need to give an equal effort to capturing responses from all of these stakeholder groups. The positioning of the surveys will be key throughout the stadium in order to capture this appropriate data. For the membership base, online distribution will also be used to capture responses, and that will be done through email and also through the website itself. It's critical to maintain a high standard of ethics throughout the process. We must consider elements including privacy, user consent, minimisation of rewards, and of course, no deception at all. From a quantitative data capture perspective, the surveys will predominantly use closed-end questioning. These questions will utilise a mixture of Likert scale questions, dichotomous questions, multiple choice and demographic capturing questions as well. The mix of the question types are really designed to capture the breadth and depth in responses whilst remaining cost-effective, efficient and easy to code and interpret. Some sample questions are included in the appendix number 1 of the accompanying comprehensive report, which has been provided to you earlier today. For the qualitative section of this research study, the number of participants per focus group will be 6, and this is within the generally accepted number. We'll encourage lively discussion, but this number of people will encourage lively discussion, but it will remain manageable. It's very critical to ensure that the moderators that we use are not inserting their opinions into the discussions. They are purely there to moderate and to try and eke out additional thoughts and feelings from the respondents without directing the focus, or should I say, without influencing their thoughts and opinions. The questions that we'll be asking will be relatively general, open-ended, and aimed at understanding the respondents' attachment and association with the Atlanta Braves brand, as well as the Turner Field identity. The moderator can feed off the discussion and will feed off the discussion by posing further questions, And that's really to try and delve deeper into the subject matter. But again, it's important that they do not make their own opinions known. From an analysis, reliability and validity perspective, the Likert scale questions generally produce what we call ordinal data. As a result, it's not ideal to utilise measurements such as mean and standard deviation, as they're typically not valid parameters for ordinal data. Instead, we'll look at presenting the median, rank and range data from the findings. This process will require the data to be coded using numerical identifiers for the processing part of the task, and this information will then be presented using a combination of both tables and graphs in the results. There's a potential for demographics to be leveraged for further analysis as well, using either Spearman's rank correlation or through the use of a t-test. For the focus group data, this data will be processed using content analysis methodology. This really examines the data for recurrent instances which are then systematically identified across the data set. However, we will complement this by using the inclusion of ethnographic analysis in the form of common theme quotations. This will provide further depth around the brand and stadium identification as well. Reliability and validity is crucial to the entire study. Without it, all of the results are really put into question. The reliability element requires that the results are not just one-off findings. They must be repeatable, and that's really, really important to keep in mind. The design of the survey needs to have consistency and little flexibility. It needs to be repeatable. From a focus group perspective, it's heavily reliant on the moderator, and strict instructions and training will be provided to our moderators to ensure and elevate reliability levels. From a validity standpoint, it really relies on the proper controls to be put in place throughout the sample selection process, the experimental design, and the data analysis. And each of those segments are equally as important. We'll really need to be mindful of the unexpected influential factors that we come across along the way, and we will need to adjust our approach if and when required. So in summary, I think conducting good research is obviously important for us to be able to make good investment decisions. And that's what this research design is really aimed at allowing us to do. The suggested program design will deliver statistically significant results to allow the strategy to be set with respect to turn of field. As I said, the mixed methods approach provides both flexibility to capture both the subjective data as well as the more tangible data relating to the field elements itself. Both of these are critical to understanding the full picture. It's clear that the process needs to be followed using an ethical approach to ensure both validity and reliability. So that's really the summary of the proposal that I've been able to present to you today. I'd welcome any further questions, and again I'd like to thank you all for your time and for the opportunity to work with such a world-class outfit like the Atlanta Braves. Thank you very much.